Paul Farbrace joins us to chat all things Sussex, all things cricket. Harmy and I refer to you as our voice of reason, who we need to call upon every now and then, Farby, to explain the weird and the mysterious to us. But we'll get onto that in a moment. I'm talking county schedule, of course. Let's talk Sussex first. You finished fourth. I mean, it was such a pleasure to look back at the interviews Harmy and I did with you 2 or 3 years ago when you moved down to the south coast. You said you're not going there for a good time on sit in a deck chair and enjoy the view. You said, you want to play winning cricket. Your aim is to get back into Division One, and you finished fourth. But you made a really strong start. And I mean, Scott's put in our running order notes here, 28 points clear of the relegation zone. Scott, honestly, that's not the way to look at things. I mean, you made a really strong start, and Harvey and I thought you might be title contenders.
Yeah, I think that I think after 9 games we were third in the competition, going really nicely. We had a wobble where we lost at home to Essex, we lost away to the Yorkies at Scarborough, and we picked up 4 points in 2 games, and that really hurt us. And it's amazing. I mean, Scott's point about how many points we finished clear of relegation going into the last game, we still had a chance of being relegated. That was how tight the competition was. When you think of teams like Yorkshire, Durham, Hampshire, all scrapping around at the bottom. I held Durham as a bit of a benchmark for me in county cricket, because my first year at Sussex, they romped away with Division Two. And we played them. They were quite comfortably the best team. They were a first division team, and it was no surprise they went into Division One and did really well. To see them battling shows how tough it is to be in Division One. 2 games we went from being third. We lost Ollie Robinson and a couple of other bowlers, Henry Crocombe, Sean Hunt. And before we knew where we were battling to put out what I would say was a Division One bowling attack. And we were very much under the pump against Essex and Yorkshire. Unfortunately, Robbo got himself fit. We had Jadev Unadkat, who came back, who is absolutely outstanding, unbelievably skillful, left arm seamer. And it raised our standard of our bowling. It gave our batsmen confidence, and we went into the last 3 games full of confidence and end up finishing fourth, which that was our goal. And it was a highly challenging goal for the team. And as you quite rightly said earlier, my plan was to get into Division One within 2 years. We did that, and then this year was to finish fourth. And I've openly said the next 2 years the goal is to finish in the top two, trying to win the county championship at least once. And again, there'll be a lot of people saying, "Oh, you can't compete with the Surreys and the big teams," but you can. And if you really want to, and that's why I'm so pleased Glamorgan, Leicestershire this year have been promoted from Division 2, because they've done exactly what we did. They've said, let's stop talking about being a team that languishes in Division 2. And the job that they've done at Leicester, Alfonso Thomas has done an unbelievable job, because they've done a very similar thing. They've said, let's stop talking about, not having loads of money. Let's stop talking about not being a test match venue, and let's challenge. And if you play good cricket and you play it in the right way, anyone is capable of beating anyone. And that's the beauty of county cricket at the moment.
And Fabi, you covered a lot there, and I'll pick you up on a couple of things. And what I think, you talk about Durham, my team, that got relegated. Having a plan. And it sounds simple, but having a plan, you're planning now for next year.
Yeah.
So you've got that, you're thinking about having that in place. And I've always said in the last few years, Lancashire had it a couple of years, Durham had it this year. You've got to plan with overseas players and making sure that your overseas players, you don't see them as overseas players. You see them as like overseas positions and the criteria, and you're making sure that you've got players to fulfill them roles every single game. Well, I think Durham got it wrong this year, and I think that's why they went down. Lancashire, I think, got it wrong a couple of years ago, and that's why they went down. On the other hand, that's why Leicester have got it right, and that's why Glamorgan have got it right. So what's your plan for next year? And just talk us through that plan of having these, identifying these roles and making sure they're fulfilled with top overseas players to give your team in the dressing room that little bit of lift going into them first division games.
You're absolutely right. The planning bit, I think, is the most important thing. And I I've had this plan in my mind, the 5-year plan. I've had it in my mind for quite some time. So, it won't surprise you to know that our overseas players are sorted for next year already. We've had great continuity. We signed Jaden Sills. We had Jaden for 2 years, who was absolutely brilliant. Jaded Unadkat is coming back again next year. That's his 4th year with us. We've got Daniel Hughes signed again to come back next year, which is his 3rd year. We've had Nathan McAndrew for 3 years. So we've had real continuity. But what we have looked at this year, we're not going to sign an overseas bowler for the first 6 games of the season, because we feel that now that we've boosted our own domestic bowling, and Ollie Robinson almost acts as our overseas bowler within our group. And we've signed 2 bowlers in Tom Price and Dom Goodman from Gloucestershire, who are at different stages of their career. Tom Price will come straight into our team, bat 6, and be a fantastic cricketer for us. Dom Goodman, he's still finding his way as a young seamer, but he's got all the capabilities. He's got height, he gets great bounce. His last first-class game for Gloucester, he got 9 wickets. So with Sean Hunt and Henry Crocombe developing really nicely, we're actually going to back our own bowlers for the first 6 games of the season. And we think that's really important, because what you don't want to do is keep signing overseas players for the sake of it. They need to be quality. And Jaden can't come back this year for various reasons. So we've gone with Jadev Unadkat for the back end of the season. He'll play the last 8. Daniel Hughes will play all 14. So we've got continuity, and bringing Jadev in for the last 8 means that as 1 or 2 of our own bowlers might pick up injuries, they might become tired, we need to rest them, we then add that little bit of extra quality for the last 8 games. And that's where we'll probably only play Jadev maybe in 6 of those 8, because we want him to be around the team helping to develop. And one of our reasons for signing Tom Price and Dom Goodman is that we feel that we've got some very talented bowlers of our own in Hunt and Crocombe. We want to add a little bit of competition, but one of the things that they wanted to come to us for, we think we've got a good setup, facilities, coaching wise. We're a team on the up with a good plan, but having Tymel Mills, having Oliver Robinson there, they want to come and learn from them. And as you know, you can have the best or the worst coaches in the world, and that's debatable what we've got at Sussex with me. But the one thing that we have got is having high quality players on the field, because that's where the players do their learning. I remember you coming to Yorkshire and on loan for that period when I was there, and our bowlers just looked up to you, not just physically, but they looked up to you because you were a bloke that achieved so much. And I remember you came out to bowl in the middle one day at Headingley on a match day, and you had a bowl, and I reckon there was about 10 people queued up behind you having a bowl as well, because they wanted to bounce off you. They wanted to learn from you. And that's where we're lucky with Oliver and Millsy. We've got 2 people that these blokes want to learn from. And that's what your overseas players do. The players want to learn from. They want to get better. They want to follow them. We had Steve Smith a couple of years ago, who was a statement sign. It was to say that Sussex can achieve, we can sign the best players. Cheteshwar Pujara, our batters learnt so much. Daniel Hughes, they've learnt so much from him. And that's really important, that you have players, not only you score their runs, take the wickets, but who other players can learn from and see the way that they need to go to get to the top end of the game.
Just finally from me, you work with Morsey for England. He's obviously, he won the championship at the club that you're at now. 3 championships at 3 different clubs. That's some achievement, isn't it?
Phenomenal. Do you know, it's interesting. I messaged him at the end of the season when they won, the day that they got their point, to confirm it. The one thing we played against them in May up at Trent Bridge, his enthusiasm, his passion, his energy for the game is fantastic. I was lucky enough to spend a year with Morsey with the England team. I went as assistant the second time round. The bloke's knowledge and passion for the game is absolutely phenomenal. When I first started coaching, he was my coaching idol. And when I joined up with him at England, I spoke to John Stanworth, who'd worked with him at Lancashire, and I said, Stanley, I need a bit of advice. How do I now? I've known Morsey for years, but how do I actually get the best? How do I make sure that I give him the help that I need to give him as the assistant? He said 2 things. He said he's the Rolls Royce of coaching, and always remember to know where his pause button is. Slow him down every so often, because he said his energy levels and his passion for the game are phenomenal. And Stanley was absolutely right. You look at the players that Notts have developed. It's not just about signing players, but they've developed. And look at Ben Duckett. Look at the job that he's done with Ben Duckett. Look at the job that he's done with lots of players at Notts. It's not just about, they get stick occasionally, Notts, but signing players and not developing their own. But actually, the one thing that Morsey's always done, everywhere he's ever been, is make people better. I know from my time with England, Alistair Cook swore by him. Cookie absolutely loved him and was gutted when he left the England setup. And he gave him a lot of credit for when England won the Ashes in 2015, because Morsey put a lot of that work in place. And it's a shame that, for whatever reason, it didn't work out in international cricket. But, he's still revered around the world. People want to work with him and he gets the best out of players. It's no wonder that his record in English cricket is absolutely brilliant. It really is. Sussex, Lancashire, Notts, over a long period of time. That's over 20 years of developing players and teams at the highest level. That's not luck. That's a bloke who is absolutely a coaching genius and gets the best out of people on a daily basis.
3 years ago, Farby, Harmy and I worried that the biggest obstacle to Sussex cricket was the GCSE schedule. But well, and I
We
mentioned
haven't got enough in our dressing room that have got a GCSE. Let me tell you, Manners, we got some that really struggle when it comes to exams. So GCSEs was never a problem for some of us.
We were worried that they were still taking them while they were playing for you.
that was
I
what
get that. I understand that.
But I mentioned John Simpson. He's been one of the most phenomenal signings at county level. Probably for 50 years. I mean, he's averaged 70. So I'm just wondering, all those young players, is it a senior player like him and a coach like you? I mean, it must be like having well, not quite a blank canvas, but it must have been wonderful to be able to work with those young, fresh and impressionable cricketers. And a word about John Simpson and Tom Haines.
Yeah. I think, Simo probably, having been at Middlesex as long as he had, and had done brilliantly for them. He came to us, it was a fresh start, if you like. There was probably a little bit of a point to prove. Giving him the captaincy turned out to be an absolute masterstroke. He'd never captained before in his life. He took the captaincy on and he's taken to it to a duck, like a duck to water. Not from a necessarily technical, tactical point of view, but the leadership that it gives him, the responsibility that it gives him. That's why he scored as many runs as he has, because he genuinely feels that as the leader of the team, it's his responsibility. And when I convinced him to come and join us, I sold him the image of us playing really good cricket with him at the helm, and whether he was a captain or not, and we didn't necessarily talk about it straight away. It was more bridging the gap between me and the players. And Harmy's already alluded to, the game changes so quickly. I'm moving towards 60 years of age. So some of these kids I'm working with are 40 years younger than me. They were born long after they've got no idea whether I played the game. And I can tell them I was brilliant. They don't need to know that was rubbish, but I can tell them anything. But they don't understand. They think I played when we only had two stumps and a hole in the middle. They don't realise I played with three stumps. So, I need people like Simo, like Tom Haines, like Robbo, like Tymel Mills. And we just signed Danny Briggs, who will be another brilliant signing for us to play T20. Those guys are the team. They're the people that keep me in a job, because if in county cricket you've got brilliant senior players who set great examples, they work hard, they teach the players how to play, and first and foremost they do their job, which is score runs and take wickets. And Simo does. He keeps wicket brilliantly as well. He's still in great nick physically. So those players are the ones that run our dressing room, and they do run our dressing room. 10, 15 years ago, I'd have told them what to wear, what time to turn up, what tracksuits, all that. I don't bother anymore. That's the players. You sort it out. You police the dressing room. You're the senior players. You run it. And all I want you to do is make sure that you keep educating these young players, but accept that young players will make mistakes. Young men make mistakes. And rather than jumping on them like I would have done before, now it's a case of I get a senior player to talk to them. I make sure that we're creating an environment where people can make mistakes. It's a safe environment to make mistakes. And that's a learning for me as a coach, because it's really easy to think that you should know everything, but I don't know everything. And the one thing that I do know, and as I say, the older I get, the less I actually realise I know. But the one thing I do know is having good senior players around your team is what grows your environment. And you've all been in teams, whether that's in the studio, it's in the cricket team, whatever it might be. You got the right people in the right places. It's a damn sight easier for me as a coach, because I can sit back with a cup of tea and I can watch Simo doing his work. I can watch Robbo talking to the seamers. I can watch Millsy talking to the players about a T20. I've never been technically or tactically the greatest coach. My job is to get the right people in the right places and help them to create an environment where they look forward to coming to work every day. And so far, it seems to be working.